Hello, folks and fellow patriots. This is Constitution Kelly coming to you from Indiana. And of course, this week, which is supposed to be week 3, we have my plan for a freedom president, how I would put the Constitution back in the Oval Office, by Dr. Ron Paul. I showed you a clip where it was on the front of YAL, Young Americans for Liberty, their newsletter that they have that comes out, magazine. Anywho, but I am going to read it to you. They're not going to do that, are they? Just kidding. But we've got the introduction. I'm going to go ahead and start in on this. Since my 2008 campaign for the presidency, I have often been asked, how would a constitutionalist president go about dismantling the welfare-warfare state and restoring a constitutional republic? This is a very important question, because without a clear roadmap and set of priorities, such a president runs the risk of having his pro-freedom agenda stymied by the various vested interests that benefit from big government. And pretty much what he's saying here is that you have got to have a clear roadmap. Ron Paul's economic policies, foreign policy, it's all right. It's where we're supposed to come from with these things. I mean, it's just, you can take his ideas, and most of them stemming from the Constitution. Of course, just as the welfare-warfare state was not constructed in 100 days, it could not be dismantled in the first 100 days of any presidency. While our goal is to reduce the size of the state as quickly as possible, love this part, we should always make sure our immediate proposals minimize social disruption and human suffering. Pretty much that's our first priority, is to always make sure our immediate proposals minimize social disruption and human suffering. Thus, we should not seek to abolish the social safety net overnight, because that would harm those who have grown dependent on government-provided welfare. Instead, we want to give individuals who have come to rely on the state time to prepare for the day when responsibility for providing aid is returned to those organizations best able to administer compassionate and effective help, churches and private charities, of course. Now, from the introduction on, I'm only going to be going over what I consider the first 6 parts of this. It's broken up into 6 paragraphs, the first part, and in each part he explains a different part of, well, it changes per paragraph. Let's just say that. Now, this first paragraph here is about ending export-import banks and how a change in Congress would need to happen for this to happen. The part I have highlighted, I would have no problem defunding corporate welfare programs such as the Export-Import Inc. or the TARP Bank bailouts right away. I find it difficult to muster much sympathy for the CEOs of Lockheed Martin and Goldman Sachs. Thank you. We have a lot of trouble ourselves mustering the sympathy for them. And let's see. Okay. Part here. Obviously, the election of a constitutional president would signal that our ideas had been accepted by a majority of the American public, and would probably lead to the election of several pro-freedom congressmen and senators. Furthermore, some senators and representatives would become born-again constitutionalists out of a sense of self-preservation. Yet there would still be a fair number of politicians who would try to obstruct our freedom agenda. Thus, even if a president wanted to eliminate every unconstitutional program in one fell swoop, he would be very unlikely to obtain the necessary support in Congress. Yet, and now what he's doing in this next one is explaining how the change in Congress that would obviously need to take place before he was put into presidency. I mean, how likely is it? Well, can't exactly say that. I find it very unlikely that Ron Paul would get voting into the presidency without America being woken up enough to vote in their own state representatives and personal representatives, local representatives that support Ron Paul, have the same ideas as him, will work well with him in Congress and everything. why would you vote in Adolf Hitler and then vote Ron Paul in for president? It wouldn't make any sense. So, the pro-freedom president and his legislative allies could make tremendous progress simply by changing the terms of the negotiations that go on in Washington regarding the size and scope of government. I'm trying to read it like Ron Paul. Today, negotiations over legislation tend to occur between those who want a 100% increase in federal spending and those who want a 50% increase. Their compromise, of course, would be a 75% increase. With the president serious about following the Constitution, backed by a substantial block of sympathetic representatives in Congress, negotiations outlays would be between those who want to keep the funding keep funding the programs and those who want to eliminate them outright. Thus, a compromise would be a 50% decrease in spending. You see, the ones that aren't conservative constitutionalists, in order to survive in what will create as a constitutionalist shark pit in Congress, in order to do that, they've got to change their ways. If they want to keep their career, they've got to play along. So that's why we have the compromise of a 50% decrease. They've got to play ball, right? Okay, while a president who strictly adheres to the Constitution would need the consent of Congress for very large changes in the size of government, such as shutting down cabinet departments, he could use his constitutional authority as head of the executive branch and as commander-in-chief to take several significant steps toward liberty on his own. This is what he can do simply as the head of the executive branch. As the head of the executive branch, as a president, these are things that Barack Obama could be doing now and isn't, and hasn't, and he won't, because he is working for the New World Order, Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission. You people know this. You know. The area where the modern chief executive has greatest ability to act unilaterally is in foreign affairs. Foreign affairs. Next it goes on, if the president has the power to order U.S. forces into combat on nothing more than his own say-so, then it stands to reason that he can order troops home, right? Therefore, on the first day in office, a constitutionalist can begin the orderly withdrawal of U.S. forces from Iraq and Afghanistan. He can also begin with withdrawing forces from other areas of the world. Now, I can't believe it. I mean, I can. Don't get me wrong, I can believe this. At the same time, I didn't realize the United States has over 300,000 troops stationed in more than 146 countries. 300,000 stationed in more than 146 countries. Now, the last time I looked, there's only like 192 countries out in the whole world. You know, like 192 countries, and in 146 of them, we have troops there. And for what reason? Why? Why? So, the president has power to bring home troops, and some are stationed in places that are unnecessary for preserving liberty of the American people. Completely unnecessary for preserving our liberties, civil rights. This next one. Domestically, the president can use his authority to set policies and procedures for the federal bureaucracy to restore respect for the Constitution and individual liberty. An example of that would be, for example, today, manufacturers of dietary supplements are subject to persecution by the Food and Drug Administration or the Federal Trade Commission if they make even truthful statements about the health benefits of their products without going through the costly and time-consuming procedures required to gain government approval for their claims. The president can put an end to this simply by ordering the FDA or FTC not to pursue these types of cases unless they have clear evidence that the manufacturer's claims are not true. Similarly, the president could order the bureaucracy to stop prosecuting consumers who wish to sell raw milk